Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So lovely to have you here today. Today I have for you guys a video that has been in the works for like over 2 months now. So I'm really excited to finally be sitting down to film it. That sounded weird, but anyway, I've talked about this video a lot. I've referenced it a whole bunch, and that is rereading Percy Jackson and the Olympians as a 20-year-old. Yes. I'm gonna put them down. So just some general background knowledge. The only time I have ever read the series, all 5 books, all the way through was freshman year of high school. So like more than 6 years ago. And prior to that, I had read, I know for sure, the first 2 at least once, if not twice, and the third one at least once. So I haven't had a whole lot of experience reading this, and the last time I read it, I was really young, and I know a lot of people grew up, like you were either a Harry Potter kid or Percy Jackson kid or both. And I read both really late in life, comparatively, and I just wanted to give it a new try with more life experience in me, and I've read a lot more. I still love YA or new adult, huh? Or middle grade is what I meant to say. I love middle grade, I love YA, even as a 20-year-old, and I don't know, I've always had fond memories of this series, and I wanted to reread it. And I decided now is the time, so I did. And before we get into it, I am going to say this will be spoiler filled. I'm not going into too many specifics, but I will be talking about some certain plot elements. So if you haven't read these and you want to, like, don't watch, I don't know, come back. They're really spoilers, but they've been out for a long time, so are they really spoilers? And then right away, right now, we're gonna go through my old ranking of these because, I mean, there isn't that much variation between these, the old ranking and the new ranking. So, but I just wanted to include it, and this is how I remember it. I don't know if this is actually accurate, but anyway, so my favorite before the reread, as I remember it, was The Battle of the Labyrinth, number 4, book number 4. Then my second favorite was The Last Olympian, which is book number 5. Then third favorite, The Titan's Curse, which was book number 3. Kind of goes in order. Then my fourth favorite was The Lightning Thief, ranked number 4. That was the first one. And then last but not least, Sea of Monsters was my least favorite of them, and that was book number 2. Yeah, I think we should just get started, okay? Okay, thanks for coming. If you stick around this whole video, I will be impressed. So, first book, let's start off with The Lightning Thief. I rated this 4 out of 5. Percy was younger than I remembered him being. I remembered him being, I guess, my memories were more centered around Heroes of Olympus, which I'm also rereading and which will be a future video. But I did not remember him being 11 turning 12 in this first one. And it was quite an adjustment to reorient myself with the 12-year-old boy humor. Yeah, that was interesting. But even that in mind, like, I know his audience. That was the audience, right? So I'm not gonna hold it against the book for the humor when that's the audience and that's Percy. I mean, that's how old he is. Yeah, and it was also it's interesting looking back now that all of these were in first person point of view, and it was all from Percy's point of view. I think that's interesting. Anyway, this book, my favorite part of this book was the friendship, the dynamics between Percy, Annabeth, and Grover. I love them, the OG 3. Especially Percy and Grover's relationship is just so cute. They have a little romance going on. I loved one scene in particular that I really liked was the first flag football scene, because flag football scenes are kind of iconic, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first one. And I just loved watching Percy realize his potential. Like, he doesn't fulfill his potential, but he realizes what he could be, you know what I mean? And you especially see that with when he fights Ares. That was great. I mean, again, iconic. He's just such a little boss, and I love him. As you're gonna see throughout this video, Percy is my favorite character. He's my favorite character out of everyone, including Heroes of Olympus. I'm a Percy stan. I love him. I've always loved him. My car's name is Percy, so I love him. I think he's one of the most well-written characters of all time. And I love him from even when he was 11 years old. Another aspect I really love of this series, and this first book in particular, is meeting all of the gods and seeing how Rick personifies and makes them personable, and especially how they're treated in these versus how I'm in a Romans class right now too, and I've been in a Greek mythology type class, and so it's interesting to see how he relates his own versions of their personalities to how they were viewed back in the day. And it's interesting to see his modern spin on the myths, like Medusa's in this one. I just think it's great, and it's iconic, and it's a great way to introduce children or young kids or teenagers or adults to the wide world of Greek mythology and Roman mythology when we get there. So that was that one. Okay, second book, Sea of Monsters. Gave this one a 4 out of 5. This one is the shortest, I believe. Yes, and it went by really fast. I made a note that the beginning was really fast paced. There was a lot happening, whereas the first one was, you know, it's building to it. And this one, I really liked how Percy got more, with each book he gets more mature as he grows, but he also gets more complex as a character, and like how he's written as a character. So I loved that. Especially in this one, I loved his development. Especially in this one, we get Tyson, his half-brother, and their relationship. And I loved how he developed, from the beginning, he hated Tyson as a half-brother, and he resented Poseidon for, you know, like, burdening him almost with this half-brother who he didn't like, he didn't respect. And then over the course of the book, and by the end, he loves him, he accepts it. I think he started to realize, you know, the gods have been around for a long time. There's a lot of children. He has a lot of half siblings, and he's just gonna have to get used to it, you know, like, and a lot of them aren't human. They're not demigods per se. So he's just gonna have to live with that. And I loved how he eventually accepted and loved and grew protective of Tyson, because I love Tyson. He's a great character. He's so sweet, and he loves Percy, and it's just so cute. And then also this book, I really appreciated all the Odyssey references, because I recently read the Odyssey and I did a whole project on it, and I just loved the connections we were making. Okay, there's that one. Didn't have a whole lot to say. It was short. Third book, Tyson's Curse, 4 out of 5. Who is surprised? First of all, this one, I love Nico. Okay, Nico is, I don't know, maybe I should rank the characters like at the end of Heroes of Olympus, Heroes of Olympus, because there's a lot of them, but Nico is top 5 easily favorite characters in the series. I love his introduction. Again, much younger than I remembered. I also loved everyone else we get to meet in this book. So like we really get Thalia. Listen, okay. I think it's Thalia. We get her for the first time. We get Bianca, Nico's sister. We get to meet some new gods like Aphrodite, Artemis, and Apollo. And Artemis / Diana is my favorite god, like outside of the series. I love her. Queen. And so, and like meeting Annabeth's dad and her family and Zoe. Okay, I'm looking at my notes. We just get a whole lot of people, and it really diversifies and widens the scope of things. I really liked the dynamics between Thalia and Percy. They kind of like resented each other and were very competitive in a childlike way, but they're also very similar. And I think it's like Percy's arguing with himself almost. And I love that by the end they have this friendship and this cool relationship. I'm looking, oh, okay. Aphrodite appearing to Percy as Annabeth. I loved that. As a Perciveth stan, I loved it. It's our first, not the first, but the first big glimmer of Perciveth and their romance. And it was so sweet. And he was so confused. And I was like, honey, come on now. Let's go. The final fight with Atlas and the whole Atlas thing, and oh, book fell. Percy and Annabeth holding it up, and Artemis was holding up the earth or the heavens or whatever. Very interesting. I liked that whole plot line, and I like that Annabeth's dad came and saved them. He's really cool. I always love the scenes on Mount Olympus afterwards. I just think it's the throne room and all of them there. It's really cool and intimidating and nerve-wracking. And so, yeah. Isn't this also where we get to meet Blackjack? I love Blackjack. Okay. Fourth book, Battle of the Labyrinth, which was a book I understood to be my favorite. 4 out of 5 stars. It's getting to be obvious, I think. This one, okay. Let's talk about it. This one we get a lot of maturity and development, and especially Percy. You know, he's dealing with his guilt and his grief over Bianca and his grief over Zoe. And he's finally starting to realize, I think, in this one, you know, it's not a joke. People are gonna die. And he really starts to contemplate his role in things and his role as a hero and kind of this pawn of the gods almost. And I think this is really when he starts to resent them and, you know, resent how they use their children in this to fight their battles for them. And he starts to really come to terms with his part in the war and his role in the war. Which I mean, it makes his character all that more complex. I love him. I love any development. We also get jealousy in this one. Percy's jealous of Luke. Annabeth's jealous of Rachel. I love Annabeth and Rachel's banter. And at this point, it's like they don't even know, like, they're jealous and, like, why they're jealous. And then I also love, well, I loved Rick's inclusion of Calypso in this one and in Heroes of Olympus. I love her. I think her story is really interesting. And it's also really sad. Like, it's really depressing, and it just shows the extent of the gods' inhumanity and their mercilessness. I also really liked the fight with Antaeus, and I loved the mace. It's a really interesting myth, just the original, and I loved how Rick used it and incorporated Daedalus. It's just really interesting, and it's kind of trial-like, and I love trials. So, Another thing I really liked was at the end, kind of Annabeth and Nico's relationship. And I think looking back, Rick is really laying some groundwork for some things that happen and are revealed in Heroes of Olympus. And it's really interesting to see how people misinterpret these signs and these things that are happening. I did make note that the end battle scene at Camp Half-Blood, like the end of the battle, the final battle at Camp Half-Blood, felt really sudden, and I was like, that's it. So there's that. Okay, now we're on to the fifth and final, The Last Olympian, and I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'm gonna like talk about my ratings and after I get done with this one, but yes, this one is my favorite. I really enjoyed seeing Poseidon's palace and like the whole mayor people and Tyson doing his thing, being a boss, love him. Luke's past, like his backstory and his mom, I remembered before I reread this being one of the saddest things in these books, and it made me tear up again when I read it this time around. I just think it adds a lot, and it kind of helps us understand his resentment towards the gods. And I also think it's interesting, like, Percy, they all resent them. It's just Percy chose not to raise the Titans. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I really thought the inclusion of Luke's backstory was a good choice. The whole thing with Achilles' power and the Achilles heel and Percy taking it and like going in whatever that river was, amazing. Okay, listen. It was great. I loved that entire thing. And he was like, he picked a spot and Annabeth like instinctively knew where it was, and it was awesome. There was a lot of tension around that. Okay, I also loved Percy being a boss, okay? This kid is awesome, and I love him. And him kicking Hades' army, like kicking Hades, okay, him defeating Hades' army and like stepping up to him was great. It was awesome. Also him beating the Minotaur again, like amazing. This kid is great. I also forgot when I reread this that Selena was the spy. I full on thought it was Annabeth, and I remember the first time I read it I thought it was Annabeth too, and I was shocked when it was Selena, and the same thing happens again. I thought it was Annabeth. I don't know why I think it's Annabeth. Like, no, it's Selena. The last fight, I felt kind of disappointed. I understand Luke being the one to kill Kronos and, you know, his little redemption arc before he died. I just really wanted Percy to do it. You know, we've had this entire series of Percy killing all these people, all these monsters, and him wanting to kill Kronos. And I just think it would have been, I would have felt more satisfied if Percy had killed him. Just saying. Okay, we're getting down, like, I'm almost done. I have 2 more things. Percy turning down the gods' immortality offering will never not be iconic. I love him for that. It really shows, I think it really exemplifies him as a character and as a person. And he is not in this for love of the gods, you know. He's in this to protect his friends and his family and the world, and not for recognition from the gods. Like, I think that's really important, because like at the first book, he really wanted Poseidon's recognition, and he still does, but he's not doing this solely for Poseidon and the gods. He really hates most of them, so. And him choosing to be mortal for Annabeth, oh my gosh, so sweet. And I love that he used his promise, or he tried to use his promise anyway, to help other demigods and get more recognition for them. And then the last scene, the kiss under the lake, so sweet. I loved it. I was crying. I love them. So yeah. So let's talk about my ratings, my overall thoughts. I really enjoyed rereading this. I probably would reread it in the future. I'm definitely keeping these copies. I love it. It's very valuable. Looking back on it as a 20-year-old, I do see some flaws and some critiques that I don't think, you know, middle grade readers might pick up on. And you also get some more of the complex themes that are going on underneath it. The writing, you know, Rick's successful for a reason, and I do think he does a good job, especially keeping in mind this targeted audience and the age group. That being said, it's not the best writing I've ever read. Ow, why did I just get a stabbing pain in my heart? Okay, cool. It's not the best writing I've ever read, and I can admit that, but I still love them. I love the characters, and I love his take on mythology. So if you haven't guessed, Last Olympian is my favorite. Battle of the Labyrinth is next, then Titan's Curse, then The Lightning Thing, then Sea of Monsters is last. So not much changed except my top two. Last Olympian I just felt was a great overall book. Percy's my favorite character. And the reason why I didn't like rate all of these, I rated most of these 4s and didn't rate Last Olympian 5, is because of the writing. I mean, 5 out of 5 is perfect writing for me, and I can admit that the writing isn't my favorite, and it's not the best writing in the world. So it got a 4.5 out of 5. But I love the series. I have some nostalgia for it, even though I didn't read its entirety until high school. I read the first couple of books throughout, I think it was elementary, if not early middle school. So, I mean, I did read them, and I knew about them in my formative years, so they still hold a special place in my heart. I love Percy. I love Annabeth. I love Nico. I love Grover. I love Tyson. It's not my favorite series in the world. I can admit that. But I respect people who this is like their favorite series. I respect that. I completely understand. And if I had read these in elementary school and became obsessed with this, I'm sure they would have been my favorite series. I had a really good time rereading. I think you can reread these types of books no matter how old you are and still get something new out of each experience. Might be a little weird reading from the point of view of a 12-year-old boy, but you know, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I'm finally finishing this video. And hopefully I can finish Heroes of Olympus soon so I can move on with my life. So yeah, here's this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for stopping by. I can't do my outro holding them like this. Okay. Here come the guns. Like, subscribe, maybe, possibly. I hope you guys have a great day, month, year. Peace out. Love to everyone. Positive vibes to everybody. Goodbye. In the video.